The other part of you is survival mind. Yo, welcome back to my channel. This is where you come for mindset, for weight loss, mindset for fitness and motivation and anything basically mindset. Today we are going to talk about the first part in a series about mindset for weight loss. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this topic up because it is quite involved, very involved actually, into manageable chunks for you. And let's just start at the very beginning. So you ready for this? The very first port of call for understanding how your mindset, and when I talk about mindset, I'm talking about your emotional state, but also your mental state, and they are slightly different, are affecting how you go about losing weight and your experience of losing weight. It is really and seriously a huge topic, but we're going to cover all of it, right? Because I'm determined to do it. We're going to start with your internal navigation systems. Now, I'm using terminology that is my own, not anything to do with psychology or anything formal, okay? So I'm using my own terminology because I'm comfortable with it and I know how to explain it in this way so that other people can understand it. There are some internal navigation systems that we have as human beings. And we've all got them. They function in slightly different ways in each of us, but they are, however, present. The very first one I call natural self. Natural self, I'm referring to, obviously, a part of you that is similar to how you were born. This part of you is in a trusting, loving state. And this part of you knows no fear apart from its primal fears, which are present because you are a physical being. So you have to have primal fears. What I'm talking about there is inbuilt into your DNA fears that you have to react to be able to stay alive. And when you're a baby, those two are loud noises and falling. All babies react to those and are tested for those when they're born. So natural self, apart from that, is extremely trusting. When you think of a newborn baby, you're thinking about how it just has to trust that its needs will be met. Okay, and all right, yeah, sometimes that doesn't happen. Now, what the bloody hell has that got to do with weight loss and mindset? Well, what you need to know, as in knowledge, you know that this is a part of you. A part of you that will never leave you. It makes up your being. You are a multifaceted being, and this is part of your being. It is a section of you and always will be, no matter what. So this is really helpful to know, okay? You know it. You don't go, oh, maybe, perhaps it is. Maybe she's got a point. No, I know that this is a part of me. It's a fact as far as I'm concerned. The other part of you is survival mind. Do not forget, if you like what I'm on about, press all the good buttons, not the bad ones. Subscribe and all that malarkey. And survival mind, I call it this because this is much more to do with your primal instincts, okay? So we've got some fear in us when we are born. It's implanted in us, in our DNA, to keep us alive. However, it can become deeply misused, short-circuited and misguided in its use. And what happens with survival mind is that as we grow as people, we start to, instead of being scared of real things like falling off a cliff, we become scared that we are not good enough, we're not valuable, we're not acknowledged, we're not heard, we're not understood, we're not nurtured enough, we're not loved enough, okay, we're not lovable enough. And so the fear gets, like I said, short-circuited into these kinds of beliefs about ourselves. over time based on what we observe going on the outside of us and the meaning that we place upon those events. Emphasis on the meaning that we place upon those events. So we've got two aspects there, okay? The third aspect is very much still in place, which is the originating primal instinct, where we do actually have fear of such things as falling, loud noises, and anything that might pose a risk to this body that you're in, okay? One of the major things that poses a risk to the body that you are in is starvation. Now, starvation is age-old, and our species, the human being, has experienced starvation many times. And so inside our DNA is that knowledge that it can happen, and our bodies are very well equipped to deal with it. This is the reason why our species has survived this long. So you can see where I'm going now, maybe. So what I'm getting at really here is that when you diet, your body perceives and understands that you are starving to death. Okay? Survival mind, your primal instinct, both of them are definitely not concerned with your happiness, with your health, or your vanity. None of them. Okay? It doesn't give a shit about any of it. This part of you is only concerned, and its only job is to keep you alive. And once we understand this in greater detail, it can really help and be very effective at dissolving some of the really awful emotions we carry with us about weight loss and being slim and being good enough and being lovable. And it really helped me once I understood this fact. If you look at animals do not, as a rule, overeat. Okay? The only ones that seem to overeat are the ones that have come into human contact and have acquired human traits, okay, as a result of observing human behaviour and being looked after by humans who are imparting their opinions and behaviours upon that animal. So if you look at nature, and nature's always the best place to look, we see that animals are very balanced. They eat when they need to eat and they rest when they need to rest. Animals are, generally speaking, not at all concerned with the deep meaning of their lives, and they're certainly not preoccupied with being good enough or not good enough. Okay, they just are. They're just being. And there's a lot to be taken from that, I think, as human beings. We really do tie ourselves in knots about this, and it causes a lot of misbalance and imbalance in our physical and emotional being. So, the point of this video really is to just get you to think outside of the norm, and to get you thinking about these parts of yourself as you navigate through your day. There are very specific reasons we become overweight. One of them is that we are perceiving fear mentally, emotionally and physically where there isn't any. So we become frightened. We're having a fear response inside our bodies, which is causing a hormonal cascade of things like adrenaline and cortisol, which causes us to have fluctuations in our blood sugar, which can cause us to overeat. Because if we were experiencing a lot of fear in nature, it would be because we were under attack, right? Because something else was trying to eat us. So of course we would need more energy, we would need to eat more, we would need to put in more energy into our bodies to be able to survive that situation. So there's this. So stress, fear definitely impacts on our need to eat or our inability to eat. Also, because stress can stop you from wanting to eat, right? How much stress are you experiencing? Is this knocking you out of balance? Are you perceiving things to be scared of that perhaps you don't need to be, or perhaps need to be looked at and reviewed, and perhaps your perspective upon those needs to have a little shift? The other part is very, very much practical, and that is that we have food now that has a lot of calories in it, right? So in nature we would have had foods usually come separate in terms of macronutrients. Normally you just get protein in the form of meat, you just get carbohydrates in the form of vegetables and fruit, and you just get fats in the form of things like avocados, oils, nuts, although nuts are a mix, etc. So we would just be eating things as and when we could find them. We wouldn't be eating big old chunks of fat and sugar in nature. So for example, a study has been shown that when we eat fat and sugar combined in equal quantities, we literally can't stop eating it. There was a study done on rats. If we just eat fat, you can stop eating it. If you just eat sugar, you can stop eating it. So in nature, that combination doesn't occur, and that's no coincidence, right? So things like chocolate and crisps have that combination inside of them, and donuts and things like that, and therefore this doesn't occur in nature, but it makes our bodies go mental and tells us to not stop eating. Your survival mind, as I mentioned at the beginning, just wants you to be alive. It doesn't not worried about whether you want to look like J-Lo or whoever. It just wants you to be alive, okay? That's its priority. So if we are spending each day then a little bit switched off, a little bit glazed over, then we're not in control of ourselves. We're not in charge. We're not being the boss of ourselves. And this means that survival mind's free to take over and just to tell you to eat constantly and be scared of everything, and then eat more and be scared of everything and eat more and be scared of everything. It's when we actually have to understand that there are other parts of us that we can help navigate through this storm, the storm cloud. If we switch our minds on and become really present in a moment, in every moment as much as possible, then we can start to understand and listen. What am I? Oh my God, I do feel anxious. I do feel stressed. What's happening there? What's the cause of that? Switch on and actually start to understand what in your life is contributing to those negative emotions. Do they need to be there? Is it necessary? For example, when you don't sleep very much, you become very anxious and very hungry. I'm really hoping that this is just opening your mind to the fact that you are more than what you think you are, that natural self exists. Natural self is not scared. Natural self is a completely trusting thing. It trusts life. It trusts that if you take action, then the outcome will follow. And that's your right to have that thing, and it will happen if you take the right action and then keep taking the right action. So natural self knows its self-worth. It knows that you are happy. It knows that you are love, and none of that is in question when you come back into contact with that part of yourself. If you're interested in starting to make that connection with yourself, I have a link below to my grounding exercise. I think it's only about 5 minutes long, and it is a visualization that you need to do not when you're driving, please. Just sit down and do it when you've got 5 minutes of complete peace and quiet, and you will start that process of reconnecting with your true self, which will evidence to you that that part of you is actually there and with you, which means that in the day when you're feeling a bit stressed, you'll be able to reconnect with that part of you with greater ease. This is the start of the journey. There's many more videos that will follow from this one to help you on your journey to progress from this very early stage of understanding yourself.